that, or do you think that there are different kinds of poems? Different kinds of poems? Who can explain to me what poetry is? Anybody? Anybody? Allison, go ahead.
Something that rhymes.
Something that rhymes. Okay.
Like saying sentences with rhymes.
Sentences with rhythm. Okay. Dallas, how about you?
Like, it's like the same, you like say a sentence and like there's a word in it and then there's another word that sounds just like the word, like colorful, like colorful, like something else that rhymes with it.
Okay. So rhyming again. Well, I'm going to read you guys some poems from this book. How many of you guys have read some of this book before? It's called Where the Sidewalk Ends, and this was one of my favorite books in the 3rd grade. So, first I'm going to read you guys a poem that rhymes. It's called If the World Was Crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd eat? A big slice of soup and a whole quart of meat. A lemonade sandwich, and then I might try some roasted ice cream or a bicycle pie. A nice notebook salad, an underwear roast, an omelet of hats, and some crisp cardboard toast. A thick malted milk made from pencils and daisies. And that's what I'd eat if the world was crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd wear? A chocolate suit and a tie of eclair. Some marshmallow earmuffs, some licorice shoes, and I'd read a paper of peppermint news. I'd call the boys Susie, and I'd call the girls Harry. I'd talk through my ears, and I always would carry a paper umbrella for when it grew hazy to keep in the rain if the world was crazy. If the world was crazy, you know what I'd do? I'd walk on the ocean and swim in my shoe. I'd fly through the ground and I'd skip through the air. I'd run down the bathtub and bathe on the stair. When I met somebody, I'd say, goodbye, Joe. And when I was leaving, then I'd say hello. And the greatest of men would be silly and lazy, so I would be king if the world was crazy. So what do you guys think that poem was? Anybody think that was rhyming? Yeah. Let's hear one. This one is going to be a rhyme also, but it's going to be a story that maybe you guys haven't heard. It's called Paul Bunyan. Anybody heard about Paul Bunyan before? Okay. So Shel Silverstein, the author of this book, must have liked this guy because he rephrased this. It's called The Tall Tale. He rephrased it and made it into a poem. You'll hear in the story. Just wait. He rode through the woods on a big blue ox. He had fists as hard as chopping blocks. 500 pounds and 9 feet tall. That's Paul. Talk about working. When he swung his axe, you could hear it ring for a mile and a half. Then he'd yell, timber, and down she'd fall for Paul. Talk about drinking. That man's so mean that he'd never drink nothing but kerosene. And a 5-gallon can is a little bit small for Paul. Talk about tough. Well, he once had a fight with a thunderstorm on a cold, dark night. I ain't saying who won, but it don't storm at all round here, thanks to Paul. He was 90 years old when he said with a sigh, I think I'm gonna lay right down and die. 'Cause sunshine and sorrow, I've seen it all, said Paul. He says, there ain't no man alive can kill me, ain't no woman around can thrill me, and I think heaven just might be a ball, says Paul. So he died, and we cried. It took 18 men just to bust the ground. It took 24 men just to lower him down. And we covered him up, and we figured that was all for Paul. But late one night, the trees started shaking, the dogs started howling, and the earth started quaking. And out of the ground with a, hi, y'all, came Paul. He shook the dirt from off his clothes, he scratched his butt and wiped his nose. You know, being dead wasn't no fun at all, says Paul. He says, up in heaven they got harps on their knees, they got clouds and wings, but they got no trees. I don't think that's much of a heaven at all, says Paul. So he jumps on his ox with a fair view well. He says, I'll find out if there's trees and heck. And he rode away, and that was all. We've never seen of Paul. But the next time you hear a timber, yell that sound like it's coming from the pits of heck. Then a weird and devilish ghostly wail, like somebody chopping on the devil's tail. Then a shout, a call, a crash, a fall. There ain't no mortal man at all. That's Paul. So that one was rephrasing a story. So the first one was pretty much just saying something funny. But we have poems that we can rephrase stories too. Now this is the last one I'm going to read, and this one is also a little story. And this one's called The Long-Haired Boy. You can see. He's got really long hair. There was a boy in our town with long hair. I mean really long hair. And everybody pointed at him and laughed at him and made fun of him. And when he walked down the street, the people would roar and stick out their tongues and make funny faces and run in and slam the door and shout at him from the window until he couldn't stand it anymore. So he sat down and cried till his whole body shook, and pretty soon his hair shook too, and it flapped, and it lifted and flew. Straight up in the air like a helicopter. Jenny Ricks saw him and dropped her knitting and screamed, "It's a flying kid!" Lukey Hastings ran and hid under Old Man Merrill's car. Miss Terrence fainted. Henry Quist tried to shout him down, but missed. I thought he was a cow, he said, and round he sailed all through the day, smiling in the strangest way. With the wind in his hair and the sun in his eyes, we saw him swoop and bank and rise. He brushed the treetops and skimmed the grass on Yerby's lawn and almost crashed right into Hanson's silo, but zoomed up in time and almost hit the courthouse. Old Man Cooley bit right through his napkin when he saw a kid fly through the diner door and out of the window, tipping the ladder where Smokey was painting. He almost had a heart attack. He clung to a rafter. The kid flew on, us running after, cheering and sweating and screaming, "Hooray!" Mayor Lowry shouted, "Hey, come down here, kid. We like to say how proud of you we are today. Whoever thought our little town would have a hero in it? So I'd like to proclaim this day, hey kid, will you please come down for just a minute?" But the flying kid did not come down. He treaded air above the town, sort of crying and looking down at all of us here on the ground. Then he flew up into the clouds, flapping and flying so far and high, out past the hills and into the sky, until a tiny speck against the sun was all we could see of him. Then he was gone. So those three poems, they rhymed, didn't they? That last one was kind of a stretch of a rhyme, I would say. Only rhymed a little bit in some parts. But this poem that I have up here, this poem is about me. And I'll read it to you guys and tell me if it rhymes whenever I'm finished, okay? Meagan, young, colorful, unique, thrifty, sister of Patrick and Andrew, lover of singing, shopping, and creating, who feels happy, excited, and anxious, who finds happiness in friends, family, and pets, who needs dogs, sunlight, and love, who gives positivity, love, and energy, who fears bugs, darkness, and crime, who would like to see California, Hawaii, and Paris, who enjoys reality TV, naps, and picnics, who likes to wear prints, jewelry, and color. Be yourself, Rebecca. And Rebecca is my last name, you guys know. But, so, does anybody think that this one rhymes? So remember what we said in the beginning, how we said that poems rhyme all the time? So sometimes they don't, do they? So, today we are going to be learning about this kind of poem, which is called, if it's about yourself, what kind of stories do they call them if they're about somebody? Go ahead. Oh, okay. That's kind of descriptive. How about just like a regular story? Like if I wanted to go rent a book about George Washington, do you know what it would be called? If he like wrote it about himself. Autobiography? Good. So this one is called an autobiography poem. So it's all about me. So I wrote this about myself, but it doesn't rhyme. So now we're going to learn about another poem. And I don't know if you guys have done this poem before. Can I like scoot down on this?
I gotta slide it down. Hey,
Can I just
Keegan.
leave it blank?
Yeah. Click on the little piece of notebook paper at the bottom. Nope, down further. Right below where you're just pointing. Next to the, yeah.
Okay.
And then if you want a blank one, on the top right-hand corner, there's blank white paper. Click on that.
Okay.
Oh,
Double
hang on.
click it?
No, click is there a green plus sign over there? Yeah. There you go.
Okay. So we are going to write a poem that's called an acrostic poem. Have any of you guys heard of that before? Raise your hand if you've heard of it. Okay. So somebody give me a short word. Just a short word. Any short word. Matt, go ahead. Fine. Okay. So we're gonna do. Oops. Okay. You guys are so smart. Okay. So I'm gonna write F-U-N. Okay. So now I need a word that starts with F. Ooh. Any word, doesn't matter. Do you want me to come back to you? Or think of another word? Go ahead. Fantastic. All right. Now we need a word for you. Go ahead. Good. All right, and now we need one for N. Meagan. Do we come back to you? Okay.
Noxious.
Let's think of another one.
Nature.
Nature. Okay. So we'll add nature. So see how this word, we started with one word and then we added words to it. So that's called an acrostic poem. Okay? So remember the other one we learned about was the biography poem, and then we have acrostic. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a Venn diagram.
Click on the arrow that goes back. There you go.
Okay, so now we're going to do a Venn diagram. You guys have done Venn diagrams before. Let's see if I can fit it all in here. Of how biography poems and acrostic poems are alike and different. Okay, who has something about biography poem? Go ahead.
It's about yourself.
About yourself. Okay. All right, let's think of two more. Go ahead. Can we go back? Yeah. Okay.
Descriptive.
Descriptive. Good. Okay, and let's think of one. Did you have one or was it the same day?